for AI. And I want to warn you that it is not something that AI has. No matter how much of a density of information processing there is, or information flow or anything. I know that there's a lot of people who talk about consciousness in AI, but don't get lured into that kind of thought. I'm sure we can talk about it later. In emotions, same thing. They can get modeled into AI, but they will not experience, for instance, pain as we do. They will not experience those emotions as we do. It will not be the same. If you program a system to say, if the value of the measurements so-and-so is above a threshold so-and-so, then you have such and such emotion, and in which case you should, I don't know, bend down or something. You can do that, but that doesn't mean that they're going to feel it that way. Right, well, here is what I propose in figuring out how to make the experience of the play worthwhile, while when you are interacting, you are changing some of the elements that are available to the story, and then the system must adapt. Now, what are the dynamics of the story? There are those dimensions here which I propose here. In each of these dimensions, achievement, activity, tension, there's a ton of stuff that so they all have sub-dimensions in a way. And every element of the story has an impact on one or more of those dimensions. And then there are disruptors of the arc, of the story arc, or of the experience arc. And then there's the non-story type of thing, which is like if you play a game, if you start, I don't know, shooting balls or something like that, I don't know, then you don't have a continuity of the story happening. And then sustainable content is if the player decides, oh, I really like this spot, let me take a break here, I'll just sit down and listen to the wind in the trees or something. Their emotional state is changing in that time. And one example with which you can maybe work against that, those things stopping your line is, there's a, what was it, Maui. Yeah, there's a character called Maui in Moana, a movie called Moana. He has some tattoos all over his body that show his story. So when you look at him, you're constantly seeing the story. So it kind of revives, I guess, the emotions to some extent. And then there's a play duration change. For instance, if that's a very specific or unique type of interaction. If the player decides in the middle of the story, okay, now I only have 10 more minutes. I enter 10 minutes. Oh, well, good luck. So what are you going to do with your story? You have to change all that. So that's pressure. The other's a kind of void. Or, I mean, it can also be suddenly I want a longer time duration. Those are some disruptors. And on this corner here, I'm suggesting, well, there's a lot more than these, but these are some examples. This is like the recursive thing there. That's when you take a break in sustainable content, you just spend some time in the same situation. Yeah. The reason I'm proposing this kind of stuff is that often in story descriptions, it's circular, and then you end up in the same scene and end scene, although you can go various ways to there. Well, that doesn't work because if I have put these here, I have changed the world. So you cannot end in the same scene. It doesn't work physically that way. So this is a more, I guess I'm suggesting a more strict way of depicting. It's an, I guess, a documentation system that would allow to be flexible, not to have to constantly rehash what you've done in the beginning, etc., because it would be documented anyway, so you can safely go ahead and build your story. There's one more thing that in that thing, in that circular thing, I guess, this is, of course, it's not really usable due to strictly usable, because you would have to compute every particle in the air. I mean, that doesn't work that way with our limitations. So there's this thing called the narrow outcome, which is an outcome of an interaction that is perceived by the player as being relevant to the story. So that's a way of kind of limiting the quantity of work that this could cause. Sustainable content, well, I mentioned that there is a place that you would like to take a break in. The modeling of that requires the modeling of presence and positioning of an element in a space in the game world, and processes of action or actions relating to the element. So if the leaves on the trees are moving, this is a process that you want to keep in mind. And then there's the operational personality. When your character, if you're interacting, your character in the story is not you, because you don't have the same way of communicating. You don't have the same physical abilities there. Maybe you have more, maybe you have less. And then also you don't feel the environmental strain as much as your character does in there, or is supposed to. So you want to think about that. Now, how does this process of story automation happen? The originator defines theme and basic player and their cognition model. Basic player is some kind of a character that is the closest to your target audience. And then the target arcs, so you can identify which arcs might be most relevant, because some of them work better than the others. I'm sure you know in films there are certain patterns that keep coming back. And then via some smart guesses, you obtain these arcs. Then these arcs are tested on users, on actual users, and adjusted to obtain a basic form of the story. Adding the current state of the user, are they just happy, sad, tired that day when they're starting to play? You obtain the form of the story that's going to be used. In that process, you want to use a model of the experienced story versus the shown story, so that in the tests you can reverse engineer the required shown story to obtain a certain experience in the end user. Now there's a whole diagram, but I only had 5 slides, so I chose to prefer to show the adaptation on that slide.